Hey, everybody, welcome today. This is Liz and this is Nick, who you've met before. And I asked him if he would come on because we care a lot about small business owners and owners of bigger businesses, but most of the communication we have is with smaller business owners. And so, first of all, how's your day today?
It's good, Liz. It's very eventful.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, the morning started out. Yeah, the morning started out with um, right as the crew left, like 10 minutes down the road. I always meet with the crew in the morning, but 10 minutes down the road, the trailer brakes locked up, so they couldn't like the truck wouldn't drive because the trailer was so heavy and the brakes locked all the tires, and they couldn't pull off the like it happened immediately and they couldn't pull off the road. So they're stuck on the road with like busy traffic going by in both directions. So that was really fun. I had to come in and rescue them. And then we had somebody call out after just like two mows of the day. They weren't feeling
Oh,
good.
man.
Just the usual, yeah, the usual stuff. And then yeah, just plenty of situations with others and stuff. Um, yeah, it's not boring, that's for sure.
No kidding. And for those that'll watch later, it's right in the middle of spring rush. It's May 8th. But the reason I had Nick come
Hmm.
on today is you've had a lot of changes recently since the last time we talked, and I wanted to go a little bit into that and what you've been doing since then. So I think it was a couple months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, Mike got back from a turnaround, and then we always have a meeting after and catch each other up on everything. And we were talking about lightening up Lee's schedule, who is doing all the coaching and running the coaching program for Augusta, and how we could take things off his plate. And we were talking about we need a success. What do you call it? An owner success manager. Is that right? And so
Hmm.
we were naming names, and all of a sudden I was like, Nick, Nick. And he's like, yeah, Nick. And so it was within 24 hours. We had that conversation within 24 hours. We had had a yes from you. But tell me what was happening on your end at that same time.
Yeah, so that was kind of a crazy moment. So it's like you guys were having that conversation there, and then I was having a conversation with my fiance, and we were just talking about like, how things have been going. We both been busy, not super connected. So we were just kind of sitting there in the evening before bed, just kind of talking through stuff. And I was just trying to articulate kind of like my position and where I've been. And I told her I was like, just something about this year feels different. And I don't know if that's I'm going to break through some huge mental barrier. I don't know if like there's a big change happening in the business. Like I was just thinking, like, because the business is my life. I was thinking all of the changes that could possibly happen are going to revolve around there. Like, are we going to find an amazing employee? Like all of this stuff. And I was telling her, I was like, I have this weird anticipation that like there's a big change coming. I could just feel it. And I'm not even kidding. 60 seconds later, Mike texted me with the proposition, um, and it was absolutely crazy. And it's like, we've all had those dreams where it's like you dream of a situation happening, and then like maybe a few weeks later or a month later actually happens, and you're like, whoa, I've experienced this before. It's kind of like a deja vu. It was similar to that, where it's like some things you just can't explain. Um, but yeah, needless to say, I was excited to jump at the opportunity, because I feel like my potential impact on other people is way larger in this position, way faster, um, and also gives me direct access to people such as yourself, Lee, and Mike, to expedite my own growth and learning as a leader. So yeah, it just not that that was your question, but yeah, it was kind of a no brainer for me.
So, what did he tell you would be all included in that position?
Um, During or when we initially spoke, it was pretty much, he was saying, it was broad at that point. He said, "Hey, I want to create a new position, owner success manager. Basically, you're going to take over the coaching program. You're going to become the main coach. I'll be the regional manager for the Mount Vernon and Bellingham locations. And then so much. taking over Lee's role is essentially it. But then also some more things specifically related to owner success. Lee has obviously been really busy juggling a million things, which I could never imagine doing. I don't know how he did it. And he hasn't had the time to really dive deep into the owner success side of things. So I think it's a big step for the franchise as a whole, to be able to dedicate a position towards that and kind of set a precedent going forward to all of the owners. It's like, I'm my job literally is to help guide people in the right direction. I spend all day, every day thinking about coaching, doing calls, thinking about how to make the program better. Listening to other coaches' calls, thinking about how to make them better. So it is nice because my job is to do that. If I had a million other things to do, I probably wouldn't be as effective at this. So it is nice to have a dedicated person to that position.
Yeah, 100%. And we've heard great things about you so far. But when I think of you going into this position and taking on responsibility that is pretty heavy with all the details that are in franchisees' business, is it kind of an offensive position? So instead of waiting till somebody is in dire straits and having a really difficult time, when we put forth a concern for you about a business owner, you're able to offensively reach out to them instead of them waiting till, things are horrible and then them asking for a coaching call or a meeting with you. Is that the idea?
That is the idea. I think the offense, it'll become more systematic. I'll create more of a system around like actively reaching out to people. Right now, it's just people in the FAC. They're like, "Hey, Nick, just want to let you know, so and so is really struggling right now. They might need you to reach out." Or it's from the leadership team. We're getting emails. Red flags are being thrown up at command center. There's all these different ways now where people are letting me know, but it's still like after the problems are arising. So the idea is to ultimately, and I don't know how I'm going to go about this yet, but the idea is to ultimately create a system that allows me to check in with the silent people that are struggling. Because I'm like this personally. When I'm struggling, I don't want to reach out. I don't
Hmm.
want to bother other people. And honestly, the thought of having to step back from being in the weeds and being stuck in the situation, and then like thinking about stepping out of that just to like actually figure out what's going on. Um, it takes a lot of self-awareness and willpower to be able to do that. So I do think it is important for somebody to reach out to those people when they're in their low moments and force some sort of interaction. Because I know for me, all of the moments I was the lowest, I shrink back and yeah, no one could get in touch with me, or nobody tried because there obviously wasn't a position for that. So yes, ultimately the idea is active outreach. I just haven't found a way to systematize that yet, and that's definitely something that we'll dive really deep into in the summer. But
Hmm.
right now it's the spring. People are tight on cash. They're growing their businesses. There are lots of problems with owners right now that need to be dealt with immediately. So I haven't had the time to dive into the active outreach, and so I'll develop a system later on.
What do you think makes you uniquely suited for this position?
Um, well, that's funny because I don't think I'm uh, very special or anything, but I would say just looking at myself objectively, one, I'm extremely self-aware, and I'm able to see flaws within myself, which allows me to identify those same flaws within other people. And sometimes you need somebody to do that, not in a derogatory way, not saying, oh, you're less than. It's saying, hey, man, I can tell that you're not taking action. And I've been there and I know what that feels like. And that's how I'm able to recognize it. So being able to connect with people on that level instead of being like, oh, I'm the coach, my business is perfect, I've always been dialed in. It's like, dude, I've made every mistake and struggle that you're going through. And I muscled through it and it was miserable. I don't want you to do the same thing. So I have humility. I'm not afraid to share my mistakes, as well as the fact that I started with the Bellingham location in 2019. I was in the field for 2 years. I know exactly the expectations for an employee on performance pay. I know exactly how Augusta operates. I know what a successful business looks like. I've always followed the systems. I've had a profitable business for the last 3 years. in operations. So um, yeah, I've been pretty steeped in Augusta and the fundamentals um, behind everything. And yeah, I'd say the last thing on that is I just care a lot.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm I don't when it comes to like just making money like for myself and just running my business and just making as much money as possible, that's like very not that motivating to me.
Mhm.
And I've struggled with that for the last year in the business because we've made a ton of profit early on. We've made more profit than my skills have allowed me to deploy. So I just have a bunch of money saved up, which is great because it's the opposite problem of a lot of people. And I'm super grateful. Like things have worked out really well. But like I feel like a sense of purpose deep inside of me, which is ultimately to help people. That's why I started the business was get employees to follow the same track that I went from entry level labor to out in the field. But there wasn't any immediate prospects of that happening. So I get disengaged, and then I just start thinking like, man, like I don't really care about making that much money. I lived in a van that's it's nice. It's nice to have the security, and it's a metric for success, but it's not what gets me out of bed every morning. Um, so yeah, ultimately, I really do believe that I'm motivated by helping people and making impact and being able to say like, my life had meaning because I spent my time trying to make other people's lives better. And I just think of a
Mhm.
world where imagine, I know this is really idealistic, but imagine a world where everyone spent all of their time just trying to focus on making at least one other person's life better.
Mhm.
Multiple, ideally, dozens, hundreds if you can. But if everybody thought that way, the world would be a fantastic place. So it's kind of just I guess my way of fighting the negativity that I see in the world because it bothers me tremendously when you just hear
Mhm.
about all the negativity, and I'm super susceptible to that. So yeah, I have to stay really resilient, and I have to stay focused on um, something that has purpose beyond money.
Mhm. When we thought of you, we thought of all the same things that you just said, but one primary reason, and it's something that Lee or I could not fill the position of, and it's that you have owned an Augusta location. So you would be better
Hmm.
placed, even though we've helped all these business owners, and Lee is a huge asset and knows as much or more than multiple business owners as if he ran one.
Than me, for sure. Hmm.
Yeah, he's looked at so many P&Ls and helped them through so many things. But to say that you are a business owner and that you struggled with all the same things puts you in a unique position to be able to help the franchisees.
Yeah, and honestly, like props to you guys for identifying that because that has come in handy with almost every single call that I've done. I've instead of saying, "Hey, this is what you should do. This is because this is the system I was taught to train." It's like, "Hey, this is what you should do because I know what the alternative looks like, and I'll articulate it clearly because I've made the mistake." And my job is to expedite your learning so you don't make the same mistake. So yeah, honestly, that's been invaluable because almost every single one of these calls that I've done dozens at this point, and almost every single one, I have run into their problem exactly, and either failed or avoided the problem, and I'm able to identify it with them. And I think yeah, there is a difference. I wouldn't put a lot of weight into it, but there's a slightly different psychology around being an owner, and just like the mental position that you're in as an owner.
Hmm.
It's lonely. There's uh, not a lot of support. There's support in Augusta, but just in general as an owner. So
Hmm.
I can relate to people on that level as well.
Yeah. So how long have you been in this position?
This is 3, 4 weeks. This is the fourth week, I think. Yeah.
And you said you've done dozens of phone calls. So I also from this channel want to am concerned about all business owners. And during spring rush, it can be the most discouraging time for them. And a lot of them are in massive growth mode. They have new employees and stuff is breaking, and there's the weather, just multiple things. So, what would you say so far in the calls that you've had is the common denominator of struggles here during the spring rush for owners?
It's Sorry, I don't know if you heard that. That was my dog. It's money. That's the common denominator between all these calls. People are strapped for cash. It sounds like across the board, everyone had a bad winter. I know Mike's focus obviously is on developing winter tracks for us to be able to follow this season, including myself. We're just passing break even point this month. So we've been unprofitable from the winter, the hole that we dug ourselves into, we're just now hitting zero. And that's brutal. And that's an established location with lots of cash reserves after 3 years of operation. Um, we're still in that position. So the other operators that are solo model, they don't have a lot of liquidity. They've been in business for 1 or 2 years. It is absolutely brutal for those people.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the main concern. And yeah, just trying to dig themselves out of that hole while also growing their business during the time of opportunity. They're two completely opposing forces. Like
Yes.
one of them, you need money to be able to seize the opportunity, and then on the other hand, you're just trying to dig yourself out of a hole of not having money. So then you can't seize on the opportunity, and it just gets really complicated. Um, yeah, and ultimately, I think the answer for most people is profit mode. Even though what we're trying to do with Augusta, I'd say the majority of people want to expedite their growth. Um, and that's challenging because you basically have to measure your goals against reality and then decide what's feasible or not. And some of these calls are really difficult because you have a lot of super young, ambitious, smart, intelligent, awesome business owners that are highly effective, but they're being constrained by how much cash they have. And those are difficult conversations to have because it's like you have to temper their ambition with the reality of not having money. And then they basically just have to spend more time accumulating that cash reserve. Hopefully they burn through it all in the winter so that they can try to get to grow again in the spring. And it's a vicious cycle. If you don't find a way to get out of the cycle, it's really, really vicious. So yeah, that's kind of what we've been seeing across the board.
When somebody is a franchise, just so the people has a franchise for those listening, they are supposed to book a call once monthly with a coach from Augusta. And when they have those calls, kind of what do you run them through? What kind of matrix or what kind of conversation or structure does that usually entail?
Yeah, so really, really quick, I want to draw a distinction. There's a very clear distinction between owners who are successful, booking regular calls, knowing their numbers, and consistently doing those calls month after month, even if there's no struggle. Like all of those owners are successful. The ones who are not successful, they're not following the systems, they're not booking the coaching calls. And I know this has been said before by people like Lee or Mike. It's the truth. I've literally been seeing it over the last weeks. Um, and yeah, so I thought that that was important to draw. But basically, when I'm going into these calls, we have what's called a scorecard. So one of our amazing owners, Lafayette, Colorado, Joel Heck, he created an entire website for us to be able to track all of our coaching. So basically, that portal it allows all of the owners to access the website and fill out their scorecard. They go on, they fill out their scorecard with their monthly metrics because I don't have access to all of the up to date information. And it would just take me a lot of time to find it. And the owner needs to know that information so they can make decisions in their business. So it kind of kills two birds with one stone because it forces the owner to take the time to get out of just the operations, mowing the grass, doing the estimates. They literally have to set deliberate time aside on the weekend. You could do it in less, honestly, you could do it very quickly. But they have to sit there and they have to think about the business. They have to zoom out and look at it from the outside perspective. So they fill out that coaching card. I get things like their revenue, their close ratio, what percentage their recurring revenue is, their efficiency score, their year-to-date revenue change, their year-over-year month revenue change, all these different metrics. And then basically, I look at those metrics versus the benchmarks, and then I decide, okay, are they in growth or profit mode? And then based on that, I look at their close ratio. If their close ratio is 40% and they're in growth mode, we have a problem. If their close ratio is 40% and they're in profit mode, good to go. So you have to figure out what the owner's goals are, and then they supply you with all the metrics that you measure those goals against. And then that's where you can see the gaps and the deficiencies. And then once you can identify those, usually you can distill things down into one central point. These calls, they need to be concise, because if you're not, you just throw a ton of information at the owners. You're basically telling them they're inadequate in every way. You have 10 different changes to make in your business, and do them all now.
Mhm.
It's very difficult for people to grapple with that. So most of the Mike created this framework, the four L framework: leads, labor, liquidity, and what was the other one? Leadership. So four of those categories, um, like 99% of the problems fall within those categories, the majority of them. And then if you can identify, okay, it's a liquidity problem. How do we deploy all of our energy and attention into increasing liquidity? How do we make more profit right now? And that's the answer for most people. But basically, so, you know, we're just looking through all of the scorecard metrics, listening to the owner and what their goals are. It's not my job to tell people what they should or shouldn't be doing with their business. My job is to listen to what they're trying to accomplish, and then see if their metrics actually measure up with that, and then deliver the actual reality of the situation. Because some people want to grow endlessly, and ambition is incredible. I had a call like that today, and it's such a tough call, because it's a young guy and he's just absolutely getting after it. He's growing revenue. He's at 60,000 a month in revenue, doubled year over year, but he has no money in the bank. And it's like, dude, I get that you want to grow, and I get you
Mhm.
have this ambition, but you're heading towards a major collapse. So you can
Mhm.
ignore it, or we can face reality, and come up with a plan. So yeah, every situation is different. There's always personal things too. It's like you got to take
Right.
what the person's partner says. Like, their partner wants them to make more profit, but they want to grow the business. Like, hey man, if you value your marriage over the business, you might want to start making some more profit so you're happy. She can support you in the future. So
Mhm.
all of these situations are so dynamic, and it is something, honestly, that you just have to put in the reps to learn. And I'm
Yeah.
realizing that's like every single day there's a different situation. I apologize, Liz. This is long-winded. I'm Obviously we're going to keep going, but this is the first time I've talked really about my position and what I've been experiencing since I started. So
It's
I
awesome.
feel like I have a lot to say. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. You're talking about people that actually schedule their call. So what about the person that you're actually reaching out to? Do you ask them to set up a call? Do you send them a link to set up a call, or do you just organically, randomly pick up the phone and say, "Hey, man, I need to talk to you"? How do you approach that?
Yeah, it's usually the latter. It's like some kind of red flags thrown up, and I'm just calling them. And it's like, "Hey, man, I'm calling because XYZ. Like, I heard about this situation. How are you doing? Like, can you take a few minutes and tell me what's going on?" Typically, that same person hasn't done a call for months. I know absolutely nothing about their business, how many employees they have, what their revenue is, how much cash they have in the bank, what their close ratio is. I don't know anything about their business. So you go into these calls blind, and this is why it's so important. I think one of the main jobs with coaching, or coaches, is the accountability, holding people accountable. So it's like you might not be reinventing the wheel on these calls, or even telling them something they didn't know, but it's a check in.
Mhm.
And so I know with our solo models, the people who struggle the most, who have the least amount of liquidity, the least amount of experience in business, and the lowest amount of revenue, and everything, they're the most vulnerable. We've been doing bi-monthly coaching calls for. We're not doing that anymore. We're doing monthly calls with those people, even though it's like, hey, your number one goal is to sell jobs and have a 75% close ratio. They need accountability. They need someone to check in with them, because they go off the rails. They don't even realize it. It's like every day you go to sleep and you wake up and you think differently. Like, you're a
Mhm.
different person some days than other days. And then if you do that a couple weeks in a row, 2 weeks later, you're thinking totally different than you did in the past. So, yeah, that's really important to check in with those people. But yeah, the active outreach calls, when it's an emergency situation, um, they're very difficult. Some of them, they're beyond the point of return,
Mhm.
and those ones are really difficult because you go through every possible scenario and you just in the back of your head you're thinking the whole time it's like, man, I just wish I knew sooner. I wish you
Yes.
reached out sooner. Like I wish things were different. So those are difficult, but um, ones where they're having good problems. Hey, I'm drowning in work. This
Mhm.
is my first spring rush. I don't have a ton of money, but I also like I don't know what I'm doing, but the work is crazy, and it's like that's a great problem to deal with because we
Totally.
can we can optimize to make a lot of money in that situation. Um, so there are some of those, and I just want to give kudos to the owners. If they're watching this, they know who they are. The people that have reached out, or I've reached out to them in these emergency situations, and I pretty much lay out a plan. I don't really ask them. I say, "Hey, as your coach, this is the best decision for you. It's up to you whether you want to follow it or not. I've articulated clearly why this is going to save you, and it's up to you to execute." They update me after the call. They update me days and weeks later. They're telling me they're on the path. They're executing. A ton of respect for those people.
That's fantastic. If I was a business owner and I was flailing around all by myself and it was so bad that my business was about to close, when you would call me, what would you like? You're just coming straight out of nowhere, it seems to me. What kind of questions would you
Mhm.
ask me to start to try to do the detective work and decipher all these angles of what we could maybe try?
So I would just start with a broad, like if I don't have a scorecard, if I don't have any updated metrics, I just need to know what the business looks like. I need to know if they're in growth or profit mode. I need to know what stage of growth they're in. I need to know how long they've been in business. I need to know how much cash they have on hand. I basically I just interrogate them, and I don't really ask because it's just awkward if you ask. You have to dive in and just like what's this, what's this, what's this, and I'm just sitting here and I'm listening to the call. I'm just taking notes the entire time. I'm writing down
Hmm.
every little. It's like how many employees do you have? Do you have a part timer? How many hours in the week are you working out in the field? I'm asking and this is tough because this is hard to teach systematically to like have the same thought process across all of the coaches, for example. But after you ask enough questions, you get a clear idea of what the situation is and how to navigate through it. And it's weird because I can't tell you how many questions you have to ask or which ones specifically. Um, but eventually you get enough data and then you as the coach can see the clear path forward and you're like, okay, we're headed there. Um, so yeah, that's I've been trying to quantify that because it's like every call is so different and dynamic in these different situations. That's why it's helpful to have frameworks like the 4L framework, just to simplify all of the data that they're throwing at you, just everything, just simplify it into one thing. And it's like leads. Leads is the problem. How do we do more marketing? Um, yeah.
So Mike had 7 locations. He sold 5, and you are overseeing them, but they have GMs. So you're then called the regional manager for them. So how do you check in with them? What is your role towards those companies?
Yeah, so, or I guess just a quick clarification. I think you're referring to the North Carolina locations that Connor purchased. So
Yes.
he
So
owns
they're
those. He's taking
sold.
care of those. So, yep.
So you're the
Yeah.
regional
So
manager over the other two.
yes, the other two. Yeah. So Mount Vernon. Basically, I'm just Tim. He's a phenomenal operator. He kind of has things covered on his own. It's basically just what I was talking about. The check-in. We do weekly check-ins. He's about 30 minutes away from me. I could go drive and see him anytime. So we just check in once a week. Just get a clear picture of how the business is going. I suggest to him different ideas. I control his marketing on the back end, so it literally frees him up to go sell jobs and do the work, and then I can just work the leads on the back end. So that's a nice kind of situation. He's on top of it. He's an absolutely phenomenal operator.
Hmm.
Um, so it makes my life easy, and it honestly kind of challenges me to find more ways to provide value in that relationship because he's already so dialed in on many aspects. So it challenges me to find, because as my coach, it's like my job's not to celebrate everything that's going well, it's to point out deficiencies. And I know that sounds negative, but that's where the growth and the progress can be made is by pointing out the deficiencies. So that's kind of my job. And then as well as Bellingham, Lee is still like he's like the guy there. On top of Corey, like he's working with Corey almost on a daily basis. He's always there as a sounding board. I'm just there once a week, and I'm slowly integrating with that role. I'm getting to know Corey. I'm getting to know Daniel, the animator over there. I'm getting to know the crew. Speaking at the optional morning meetings, kind of sharing about my story too, because I started at that Bellingham
Yep.
location. Like, I was there for years. It's all familiar. It's just really cool to be that like living proof, and to be able to show people and just speak objectively about my story. And it's like, hey guys, I'm no one special. I was an average kid in high school. I'm not saying I'm above average now, but I'm saying through consistent growth and development and self-awareness and listening to good leadership and buying into the vision that other people set in front of me, your life can totally change. And I just really try to articulate the point, and I try to um, I guess, bash on myself. I bring up any bad qualities about myself as possible, because literally I'm like, I'm just a regular guy. I just did the work and focus and listened
Yeah.
to the leaders, like people like you. It's like, hey, listen to books. And I didn't listen to books for a year. And then as soon as I did, changed my entire life. Same conversation with them. So we'll see if they do it.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, that's essentially what my duties look like there. And as time goes on, I think Lee and I will transition more. He'll remove himself more from Bellingham, and then I'll kind of insert myself. And I know Corey, all the while, is becoming more of a skilled operator. So um, yeah.
Cool. So the fact that you could leave your business, and be offered this position is instant, like not chaos, but like upheaval of your whole life and your whole business. So tell me a little bit how you got a GM and how the dynamic in your relationship has changed, how you talked to this guy into being your GM, and how it's been going for him the last couple months.
All right, this is exciting to touch on this, because it is very interesting.
And
So
it's something that
so I've
so
had.
many business owners would deal with when they bring on a GM.
Oh, totally, totally. So, so Matt, he's been with me for 3 years. I found him 6 months into our first year of operation, and he's the dream employee that everyone would ever ask for. Shows up on time, goes the extra mile, cares about the client, does quality work, and he's just someone you can rely on. And we've built up a lot of trust and rapport over 3 years. And he's in his 40s. He's had a lot of other jobs at places that didn't value him, places in the past where there was an opportunity. And he said this job has changed his life in many ways, which I'm really thankful for, um, and I feel good about. But so when Mike approached me with the opportunity, the first thing that popped into my head, and obviously the first thing that Mike said too, it's like, we got to make sure that Matt can take over. Um, and so instantly in my head, I'm like, Matt, you better take over so I can take this opportunity. Like I'm like, you know, putting my sales hat on, and I'm gonna like really like lobby him to, to take it over. So I tried to avoid that as much as possible, because he's been an employee for a long time. He has
Hmm.
comfort zones. He has certain ways that he thinks, and that's all fine. It's just you got to be willing to accept the discomfort that comes with change and
Right.
leadership. So we had the conversation. I really had to go into it carefully and not put on the sales hat and just listen to him. So I just articulated everything very clearly, and I said, "Hey, Matt, this is the opportunity that I'm presented with, and here's why I want to take it." So I guess I just started with talking about myself. I want to take the opportunity for the reasons I listed earlier, how I think it suits my skill set, where my passion lies, all that stuff. But then I coupled that with, um, let me step back a little bit. He and I, over the last year, have been talking about what his future is going to look like with the company, because he's putting in long, hard hours out in the field, just labor all day, every day. He's in his 40s. Like, there needs to be some kind of
Hmm.
trajectory there. I've always told him, like, I want you to move up. I want you to become a GM. I want you to own your own business. I want you to be wildly successful in every way. And like the opportunities are there. The problem is, in the past, when I was stuck in the daily operations of the business, there wasn't room for him,
Hmm.
because I'm so dialed in every aspect, and I don't blame him for not being able to see and like take things off my plate. Most people, I'd say 99% of people don't think that way. Like
Yes.
it's very hard to just start stepping because you're stepping on someone else's toes, and it's weird, it's foreign. It's only something you learn from like books and whatnot.
Mhm.
So I give him credit for that. He hasn't stepped up in the past before because it's literally because I've been in the way. Um, so I kind of articulated that to him. I was like, okay, the reason why we haven't made the switch before and the reason why we've been talking about it for so long, but not actually just diving in is because I've been in the way, and I'm not like, I don't leave room for you. And so I just asked him, like, is this something you're ready for? I know we were talking about doing it like a year from now.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, just delaying it more. And I just kept thinking, I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, why? So I asked him and I said, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to support you um, majority on the back end until August when he can go through training the end of July, August.
Mm.
So he needs to go through official owner training to have a holistic view of what we're doing
Mhm.
because I'm extremely busy. So is he. We're growing the business. We're hiring people. We're getting new clients. We don't have. I would be doing him a disservice if after 3 years, his introduction into owning his own location, I set him up for failure by literally throwing all these things at him, haphazardly training him on all this random stuff, and then he doesn't have a holistic understanding. He can't take full ownership over the job. That's what I was really afraid of is just setting him up for failure. And so we kind of talked about it. I was like, this is what we're going to do. Your duties right now, GM, training, and field work and estimates. That's your job. So it's like meeting with the crew, communicating with them throughout the day, estimates, all that stuff. You take care of that. I'll handle everything on the back end. Emails, obviously, we have Command Center doing all of the other tasks. I do scheduling, invoicing. I type up some of the estimates that he can't. I control the marketing. I call and hire the people. So we're working together. And it's been so crucial having him in the field as the presence for the crew because you need leadership. If there is no leadership, and I've seen this with other businesses, if there is no figure in charge with a daily consistent presence, things fall apart. Like
Mhm.
people that, and I've experienced with myself actually. Like last year after the spring, just totally burnt out, spent. We have cash in the bank. I get lazy because I don't have like a higher calling. So I'm just like, okay, well, we have money. Why don't I just do a little bit less? Things go south really quick. You have employees start doing bad stuff,
Mhm.
not clocking in and out of jobs because they see you don't care. Why do I care?
Mhm.
So you have to set that vision and lead through daily consistent action. And again, I know I'm getting long winded with this. I'm just so excited to talk about all this stuff. But yeah, so Matt, bless his heart, he has a lot of stress. He's training people. He's been here for 3 years, and he's seen us just cycle through people. One, that's
Mhm.
demoralizing, but two, it gives him a really good understanding of who's going to succeed and who's going to fail. He
Yeah.
he has put in the reps enough to where he can identify quickly this is the wrong person,
Mhm.
attitude wise, performance wise. So he has that secret power. Not only I don't think he realizes it enough. So yeah, we had a situation last week where he was just getting disgruntled because he's an A player. He's the best at his job, and like he doesn't like to be slowed down. Like that's how A players are. They get disgruntled. I've been there in the past. If they're constantly working with people that are slowing them down, dragging them down, and it's just like
Mhm.
they constantly have to fix the other person's work. This is why most people in our industry stay solo operators because they can't handle the stress and pain that comes with hiring training. But
Definitely.
ultimately, ultimately we need people that are willing to deal with 100 bad hires
Yep.
for the one Matt or the one me. Like we need leaders like that. Otherwise, the world won't
Mhm.
progress. And so we kind of had a conversation because at the end of one of the days, he's just really just disgruntled. He's like, "Man, I've been working long hours. I'm training these guys. They're just not getting it. Like it's annoying and all this stuff." And I just kind of laid it out to him. Was like, this is the reality of the situation. This is what being a leader is. It's a burden. Like it's not. I think people before they're in a leadership position, they view it as, oh, this is my ticket out. I'm going to make a lot more money. I can just call the shots. And it's the opposite of that. It's more
Yep.
work than ever. It's more work than ever. And it's, and like the compensation direct related directly to the work, for most people that equation doesn't make sense because you're thinking about it all day, every day, at night, on the weekends. Um, that's the burden of command. And
Yep.
I just explained to him, I was like, Matt, you just have to get really clear with what you want in life. Do you want that? Like, do you want to create opportunity for other people? Is that motivating to you? Or have you worked hard your whole life and you just want to be a solo operator and make 100 grand a year yourself and just do the work and be happy? And I told him, I was like, either way, I'm not going to judge you, but you need to be prepared for the reality of this position. Um, and that was a really good conversation because he's very clear that he doesn't want to be one of those solo guys, and that makes me happy to see. We need more good leaders in the world. So yeah, we have a long ways to go, and we're just getting started. He's going to take everything over in August. Kind of have the slower 6 months of the year to kind of
Hmm.
get a groove, get a grip of the systems and everything, and then we're going to hit it hard next spring rush. So until then, I got back on the back end, and yeah, they're moving right along.
One thing that happened last week that you and I talked about, and we're very candid with each other, and we know each other really well. And you had told me about that when we were together last week after our leadership meeting, a little bit about him. And you said he hung up on me. He was so disrespectful. And you said
Hmm.
he knows that that is like the worst thing to do to me and that I would never tolerate that. There are owners that are listening now that have this, that they've given this responsibility to the GM. The GM gets frustrated, they have their normal life stuff, they're hungry, they're tired, they're hot, and they're dealing with all of this new stuff with other people who are hungry and tired and hot, and they just still have to deal with them. And so at what point did he hang up on you, and how did you respond to that?
Great question. Yeah, if he sees this video, I think he'll just appreciate talking about the situation objectively for what it is, because he practices extreme ownership. So it's all a learning experience, and I treat it as such. But essentially, the situation was there was a breakdown in communication from his end. He had a 6 budget hour job that he didn't check in with me or anything, and I'm thinking, cool, they're good to go. But then he texts me at 4:30 and says, "Hey, we're going to be here for a few hours tomorrow." And so it's like way over budget on the job. I had this is at 4:30, so I had the whole next day booked up. I had the day after that booked up. And it was Thursday and Friday. Like we were really just trying to crush the rest of the week. And then it was like kind of a curveball that came in out of nowhere. So I called him and I was like, "Hey man, like, can you guys push through and get this done? Otherwise, I'm gonna have to move a bunch of stuff around and do all this crazy stuff." And I'm just asking. Um, but when you're asking someone who's been grinding all day,
Hmm.
training someone that's slow and that's already frustrating them, and then you're just wanting to drop that on them more, um, I wasn't aware of the situation, so I that triggered him, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, we'll get it done by boom." And so, you know, he has seen employees do that with me in the past, and
Hmm.
I'm a firm believer in principles and respect, and treat people the way you want to be treated. And with employees that have been with me for a week or two, if somebody does that, I'm just going to get rid of them immediately. I have
Hmm.
no time to work on character development. But when Matt's been with me for 3 years, and what's that?
I'm just laughing. You don't have any time to work on the character development. It's true. It's true.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You need a good foundation. Matt, he's had a good foundation for the last 3 years. He's never blown up on me, or we had a situation last spring, and at the same time, so we're finding where his personal capacity is. It's right in this
Hmm.
range. Um, so I just called him back, and I was like, just you have to, and this was one of the lessons I was teaching him. Is like you have to maintain composure as a leader, even though situations are highly emotional. Um, you have to have the self control to hide that. So I called him and just in a very calm voice said, "Hey, Matt, don't do that, man. Do we need to have a conversation?" And he's like, "Yeah, we'll talk when we get back to the shop." So, anyways, I go and I meet up with him there, and we just hash it all out. And I because he did that in front of new employee. So the
Mm.
new employee saw how he's treating me as the owner, as if that's how we do things here. Major problem. So yeah, we just had a conversation and it was a really good learning opportunity because I'm like, I was able to teach him so many lessons, you know, the burden of command, how you have to be in control as a leader. Like you have to practice
Hmm.
self-control under any circumstance. And I asked him, I was like, Matt, like, have you ever seen me in the last 3 years break character? Not that everything I do is a facade, but have you ever seen me lose control? No, never, under any circumstance, and I've had some messed up stuff happen, and he's witnessed
Hmm.
it. And I told him, I was like, "You have to develop that muscle as a leader, and you have to take all of this input that's coming in from all different directions, and as a leader, your job is to just take it all, absorb it, literally just absorb it like a sponge, but then choose your response."
Hmm.
Um, and that, you know, that conversation was really productive. I think we talked for almost an hour, and we just I just laid everything out clear for him, the future, what this position looks like, you know, like strategy. He needs to get better at communication. He needs to get better at acknowledging his personal capacity. um, all of the stuff to say it was really a productive conversation. He was very receptive, and then afterwards, he was he was so enthusiastic. He's like, "Go back out to the job site and keep working."
That's
You know, because
awesome.
he's refreshed. Because it's
Yeah.
like you're taking him out. He was in the weeds, literally. I
Hmm.
think he was pulling weeds,
Totally.
but he's in the weeds, and you got to remove him from that. And it's like, hey, like this is the future. Like one of the things
Yeah.
he said was, I'm disgruntled because I feel like I've been grinding for 3 years and I haven't really accomplished anything different. I'm still training the
Hmm.
same people. I'm still doing the same work. I'm like, yes, Matt, but you're on this trajectory. It's like you're in that position now. And Liz, you remember when I was in the field, I was starting to get disgruntled for the same
Hmm.
reasons because
Yeah.
I just wanted to go and do something more and greater.
Hmm.
But I felt like I was being held back, which is dealing with like low quality people and, you know, just
Totally.
whatever. Um, so, anyways, I know that's long winded, but it was a really productive conversation. And they're all lessons that he's going to have to learn as a leader. And he's learning them under my business. And
Hmm.
I get to watch him make all those mistakes, unfortunately,
Yes.
be the target of some of those, but then also be the person that's able to coach him through those.
Hmm.
So I think it's really good. And ultimately, I think we'll have a lot more friction, especially when he's running things and he's
Hmm.
totally out of his comfort zone. I think he'll struggle tremendously. Um, I just hope the vision is compelling enough for him to work through that struggle. And I'll
Yeah.
be there to support him, obviously. But yeah,
Yeah, we were laughing that day, you and me, because I said, "Were you merciful to him?" And you said, "Yes, I was." And then I said, "Good, because somebody who loved you was merciful to you once."
yeah, yeah, right. And yeah, totally. And that was like a humility moment. And yeah, we need to give grace. We need to give grace to people. Like I'm a firm believer in that. But it's like you're just looking at the situation. This guy's been with me
Yep.
for 3 years. His future lies with me,
Mhm.
and I can see that he's having an emotional reaction. I'm not going to hold that against him. I
Mhm.
want to talk with him and coach him through that. Versus the employees who's been with you for 2 weeks hangs up with you because they're mowing a lawn in rain, and you know it's like you're going to handle them totally different.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome.
So
We're gonna wrap it up soon, but I just had a few things I wanted to ask you, and especially about Matt and how he was doing. Um,
mm,
Before, if you weren't in an Augusta now and you were by yourself as an owner, how would it be different for you? So this would be for other owners as well, but do you think you would be where you are if you weren't part of something bigger like Augusta Nation, or where do you think you would be?
it's really interesting to consider where I think I'd be. I have no idea. Um, yeah, I was one of those guys. I remember before I even made the decision to start up the franchise or start my own location. Like I remember talking to Hannah right when we were getting together because obviously, like in a long-term partner, you're looking for them to have some sign of goals or aspirations or some path towards stability and success in a relationship like that. And I remember talking with her and just going through the scenarios of like, okay, what like I'm a laborer. What kind of things can I don't think I heard this before either. This is right before I started or I made the decision to open the franchise. And I remember we were talking about it, and my main thing was like, I'll be a lineman, because you can
Mm.
make great money,
Mhm.
and I'm a laborer. I work hard, and that was it. And like I was looking in how to get into the unions and all this stuff, and like that was going to be my trajectory. I was just kind of putting it
Mhm.
off, um, and then I had that conversation with Brad, that kind of changed the trajectory. But I would have never arrived here in this position. I would have never owned my own business. I would never work for have the opportunity to work for a great organization and be a leader for so many people. Um, I would never have these opportunities if it wasn't for leaders such as yourself who gave me grace during those times where I was having emotional reactions. And people that showed me I was capable of more, people that showed me that there is a higher path to follow and it's real, and trust them. Um, I would have never started my own business unless it was suggested to me that I might be good at it. I used to think you had to go to a 4-year university to get a degree to start a business. I thought it was like a
Mhm.
legal requirement. And that was how fixed and limited my mindset was. That yeah, I literally thought you had to get a college degree to start a business, and I would have never thought to research otherwise. And I think about it a lot, Liz. Like I think I'm probably like the one of the best employees. Like I think I was made to be a phenomenal employee, and I think I was made to follow in somebody else's footsteps. Someone such as Mike, who can set such a compelling vision. I think ultimately that's my path in life because I've always had a drive to prove myself to other people, and that it's interesting because now I found myself owning a business for the last few years, but feeling more lost than ever
Mhm.
in that time because something about uh, just being at it on my own. I don't think I was connected as much to Mike and the original vision. Now I think
Mhm.
I am. I'm a lot more connected to you and Mike and Lee. And honestly, my new position is way more wild. Every day is unpredictable. It's stressful. I texted you earlier. I said I had my first headache today. I don't get headaches ever. My head was throbbing this morning because of all the stuff I was dealing with, and I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." Um, but ultimately, like without Augusta, this is going to sound like a commercial. This is so funny. Without Augusta, without good leadership, I would probably still be mowing lawns because that's what I had always done. Even before Augusta, that's what I like doing. I like being outside. I still do. But if I didn't believe in personal growth and development, and if I wasn't taught that, I would literally just fall into a comfort zone and just do what's
Mhm.
easiest. And I would rob the world of um, opportunities that I could create through putting myself in uncomfortable situations.
Mhm.
And ultimately, we have to look beyond ourselves. And I feel like, yeah, I don't know, we're getting into like core human
Yeah.
motivation. Not
Yeah.
that I'm an
It's good.
expert, but I I just know for myself, I'm motivated by purpose that goes beyond myself. I don't
Mhm.
care that much about myself, really. Like you know me, I lived in the van, I ate
Mhm.
top ramen. Um, I can exist with very little, but that's all it is existing.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, just yeah, that's a really broad question, and I say all of that because like it's a constant journey of um, learning and self development, and I wouldn't have learned any of this stuff or come to any of these conclusions without Augusta. Being an employee at Augusta, obviously that was the main part of it, but even being an owner within the franchise, um, literally, like I started with zero knowledge. I didn't know how
Mhm.
to price. I didn't know what an estimate was. I didn't know how to market. I didn't know how to schedule. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to invoice. I didn't even know how to like legally set up a business. None of that stuff. Um, and all of that was taught to me at Augusta.
Mhm.
Um, Not only was it taught to me, it was proven to be successful before it was taught to me. um, there was guidance along the way, and there was a whole group and community of like-minded individuals, make that distinction, that were going through it at the same time as me.
Mhm.
And these like-minded individuals, um, people with Augusta, they see the vision of changing the level of professionalism in the industry. They see what we're trying to do here. They see the value that Mike provides. They know it comes with some pain in the short term. With change comes pain. We deal with that because we believe in the higher vision and the purpose.
Mhm.
And if you were in any other random lawn care group, they don't there isn't a cohesive goal bonding all those
Mhm.
people together other than make money, which is such a shallow pursuit unless you're using that
Mhm.
money to do something greater that's going to have more impact on people. So that's really what's so life changing about Augusta. And yeah, it's obviously like I love it and it's a incredible thing. But yeah, to answer your original question, I would literally be mowing lawns without Augusta. I don't think I would have started my own business because I just absolutely had no idea how. Um, yeah,
Yeah, so one thing we try to do at Augusta is develop talent from within and look at people that are already in the organization, just like you've done with Matt and like we've done with so many other employees. In the command center now, and that's what we do is look for talent and try to give them a better way, a better life to move up. And I am really excited for the future and to see like all the people that you're going to impact. Like you realize and have the recognition that you're meant for more and for a higher purpose, and who knows, like we can't even imagine or fathom like the lives that you'll touch and the impact you'll have. You might think you just talked to a coach, but when you got off the phone with them, no, you affected their wife, you affected their kids, you affected their livelihood. And there's just so
that's
many.
overwhelming. Yeah,
It is. And so all you can do is take it a day at a time, a call at a time, and coach the people that are like, try to have an impact on the people that are closest to you. So I would love to meet up with you, in 6 months once spring rush is over, once you get to August and you're full time with the leadership team here and Matt is running things himself. It would be awesome to go over the last these months that will be ahead and just do a a drawback and see how it all went. So I really appreciate your time today. I know you got a lot going on and there's a lot of phone calls, but I really appreciate that you would come and share for everyone.
yeah, Liz. I appreciate you asking me to do these interviews because I would never do them candidly. I would like, hey, Liz, let me come talk. And I feel uncomfortable. Like, do I even have anything relevant to share? But I do really appreciate the fact that you're kind of like creating a little time capsule of all of these different people's journeys within Augusta. And based off of our last conversation that we had in last July or August, the last recording that we did, I was in such a wildly different place.
Hmm.
I was thinking. Remember, do you remember that? Like I was thinking selfishly, I'm like, yeah, take more time away from the business, take time for yourself, and it's like it's all fine and good, but like that ends after the weekend. Like that's your time for yourself. You do that like weeks on end, you're lost and you lose your purpose, and then you get less happy. And that's exactly what happened with me. And yeah, people just change so much. And I'm glad that people can look at my journey and see how how much I changed. Like I don't have all the answers and I'm a different person all the time. Hopefully it's going in the right direction. But yeah, I
Yes.
appreciate you, Liz. And again, I know we said this on the last one. Maybe I need to set the intention, but it's like we should do an interview of you. You have a lot of valuable, the same stuff that I'm talking about times 10 because you have double the management experience. You've been at this for way long. You were at Augusta before I was, and regardless of the fact whether you're an owner or not, um, I feel like people should really hear your perspective about management and leadership because you're one of the best managers and leaders I've ever met. So I respect you a lot, and yeah, we work together, I think it'll be a lot easier for us to set that time and maybe do an
Yeah.
in-person recording where I ask you some questions.
Yeah. That would be fun. I'll look forward to it. All right. Well, I'll let you go and you have a great day.
Sweet.
Thank you.
All right, Liz. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.